for Chandra Levy, capturing the nation's attention and giving law enforcement agencies a difficult mystery. The young Washington intern missing for 3 months now, seemingly without a trace. The California congressman at the center of the media storm, weathering criticism for hindering the police investigation. And the police getting their share of criticism. Have their efforts been too little, too late?
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Derry Alexander. The president promises to enable the disabled. During his weekly radio address, Mr. Bush praised the Americans with Disabilities Act signed by his father for giving disabled people more freedom.
As people with disabilities find more opportunities to use their gifts and talents, we also become a stronger, more productive nation. Some barriers remain, however, and as long as they stand, our work is unfinished.
President Bush, is proposing to improve handicap access and technology. Democrats are complaining that the president's plan to protect patients' rights would leave some people unprotected. Negotiators for both parties are looking over the proposal, but one senator argues delays make the need for change even more critical.
It's wrong to delay any longer. For every day we delay, 7,000 patients are denied a referral for needed specialty care. For every day we delay, 10,000 patients are denied coverage of a needed diagnostic test. And for every day we delay, 14,000 patients are denied coverage of a recommended prescription drug.
Secretary of State Colin Powell says he's making progress in talks with the Chinese. Powell spent Saturday talking to leaders about a number of key issues, including human rights and weapons exports. He assured China that the proposed missile defense system would not threaten them. And finally, forget about good, clean fun. These kids are getting downright dirty. And they won't have to worry about what their folks will say. They're splashing around for charity, all part of the annual Mighty Mud Mania in Scottsdale, Arizona. And our next update is at the bottom of the hour. Now stay tuned for Fox special Vanished, Where is Chandra Levy? With host Rita Cosby.
A beautiful intern, a charismatic congressman, and a mystery which is baffling cops. Hello, everyone. I'm Rita Cosby, and welcome to Fox News special coverage of the search for Chandra Levy. This drama has been playing out for 3 months, the last time the young Washington intern was seen. Our own Steve Centani takes a look at how this story has unfolded so far.
Chandra is last seen April 30th, canceling her membership at a Washington health club. It's 10 days before the public learns of her disappearance and of her friendship with her hometown congressman, Gary Condit. Police search Chandra's Washington, D.C. apartment, finding her bags half-packed and her house keys missing, but no obvious signs of foul play. Levy's parents come to Washington looking for answers. 6 weeks after her disappearance, the Washington Post reports Condit told police Chandra spent the night with him at his D.C. apartment. Condit's staff responds this way.
We just think it's time that everyone involved in this case take a deep breath, stop the innuendo, stop the rumors.
And Condit's aides insist there was no romantic relationship between Condit and Levy. Police examine Levy's phone and computer records. June 21st, Levy's mother, Susan, meets privately with Gary Condit, and a few days later, Condit meets with police. At that meeting, according to law enforcement sources, Condit says he broke off his friendship with Levy 2 days before she disappeared, and that he got repeated phone calls from Chandra that he didn't return. Week 9, flight attendant Anne-Marie Smith tells Fox News exclusively that she had a 10-month relationship with Condit and that Condit urged her to sign a false statement denying it.
If you had signed that document, do you believe you would have been committing perjury?
Yes.
Why?
Because it wasn't true.
Condit responds by saying, I have not asked anyone to refrain from discussing this matter with authorities, nor have I suggested anyone mislead the authorities. Week 10, Condit's wife, Carolyn, is interviewed by police, and Chandra's aunt, Linda Zamsky, goes public, saying Chandra told her she was having an intimate affair with Condit. She says Chandra left her a phone message saying she had some big news to tell Zamsky. Condit meets with police for a third time and, according to sources, finally admits to an intimate relationship with Chandra. The Levys demand Condit take a lie detector test. On July 10th, police searched Condit's apartment for more than 3 hours.
We wouldn't be going in there and conducting a search if we weren't in a position to collect something that may in fact be evidence.
Anne-Marie Smith meets with investigators in Washington. This same week, Modesto Minister O.C. Thomas claims that when his daughter was 18 years old, she had an affair with Condit, and that Condit asked her to keep quiet about it. In a handwritten note, his daughter denies it. Later, Thomas retracts his story, but Susan Levy believes he was telling the truth the first time. According to his attorney, Condit passed the test. But Levy's attorney, Billy Martin, still believes Condit is holding back.
While he has something to hide, I don't know what that something is. I do wish that he would once and forever come forward with all the information that he has and quit hiding little things.
Police scour abandoned buildings, local parks, and landfills, including the grounds of Klingel Mansion in Rock Creek Park, which Chandra had looked up on the internet May 1st, the day after she was last seen. Meantime, D.C. police released pictures of Chandra as she might appear, and they disclosed that the day Chandra disappeared, a resident of her building called 911, reporting she heard screaming.
Congressman, did you lie to your staff?
Political pressure on Gary Condit continues to build. Senate Minority Leader Trent Lott and Congressman Bob Barr call for his resignation. Barr calls for an inquiry by the House Ethics Committee. Most Democrats hold their tongues, but not all of them. Charlie Stenholm of Texas says, "I will say that through his actions and behaviors, Congressman Condit has brought controversy and discredit to his family, his district, and the Congress." Chandra has now been missing almost 3 months, and her parents try to keep the pressure on by releasing new home videos.
So you have some social life? Oh, yeah. I mean, I would have been, going out this week. I would have gone out tonight.
FBI investigators look deeper into possible obstruction of justice charges against Condit. At least 3 of his longtime staffers are questioned about whether they may have covered up facts or threatened women who had relationships with Condit. The staffers include Condit's D.C. administrative aide, Mike Dayton, press secretary, Randy Groves, and Mike Lynch, the congressman's California chief of staff. Lynch calls the accusations fantasy land. Fox News speaks exclusively to a man who saw Condit toss a watch box into a Northern Virginia trash can hours before his apartment was searched by police.
Looked at me as he moved towards the garbage can and put his arm in to the garbage can, and then looked at me again with definitely scowling look on his face and got back into the car.
According to sources, a 29-year-old woman who once worked in Condit's D.C. office says she gave him the watch. She tells authorities Mike Dayton urged her not to tell the FBI about her relationship with Condit. Fox News learns that investigators may want to speak to Congressman Gary Condit's wife for a second time. They're suspicious of Condit's alibi that he was at his office and later with his wife on the day it's believed Chandra Levy disappeared. Law enforcement sources also say they're investigating a phone call made from Carolyn Condit's California home to her husband's D.C. apartment several days before Levy vanished. Sources say Condit told police he was not home and doesn't remember the call, leaving open the possibility someone else may have picked up the phone, possibly Chandra Levy. But police say there's no foundation for these reports about a phone call. Meantime, Gary Condit is interviewed by police for a 4th time on week 13 of the Chandra Levy mystery. In Washington, Steve Santani, Fox News.
For 3 months, investigators have been trying to put this puzzle together, searching parks and dumpsters and questioning anyone who knew Chandra Levy. Offering now their take on the Levy investigation, we are joined by Ted Williams, a former D.C. homicide detective, and also John Sale, former Watergate prosecutor and also attorney for Daryl Condit, Gary Condit's brother. Welcome, both of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
John, I first want to ask you, what is the status of Daryl Condit? I know he had a first appearance in court.
The status of Daryl Condit is he is sitting in the Monroe County Jail, and the punishment should fit the crime. This erroneous lead, which is a disservice to law enforcement, is a disservice to the Levy family, just raises expectations and then lowers them. He's sitting in jail for something that anyone else would not be doing at this time. And it just defies logic, and I just don't understand it.
Ted Williams, can Daryl Condit add anything to this investigation?
Well, certainly I believe that he can add something to the investigation. May I just ask John, when you say erroneous leak, can you tell us what you mean by that?
What do you mean by erroneous leak?
Yeah, the tabloids located my client, and because the tabloids located him, the sheriff's office felt pressure, as they stated, that, hey, if the tabloids can locate him, we better find him too. So
one thing, John, I got to interject here, because I can also say that I've been reporting a lot on this story. Right. Your client was wanted in 2 states, albeit not for major charges, but he was wanted in California for drug charges. He was also wanted in Florida for violation of parole, and this was probation, rather, for DUI charge. He was still a wanted man. Shouldn't he have still turned himself into police?
He's not wanted in California. That was cleared up a long time ago. There was a warrant for his arrest based upon a mid-1996 misdemeanor probation violation. If that is not something where you send out flyers through the whole neighborhood, where you send out police officers canvassing the neighborhood, it's just not done to anyone else. It was based upon a picture in the tabloids with a caption that said, "Ask him." The suggestion is, ask him about Chandra, obviously. So let me meet it head on. My client has not spoken to his brother in over a year and has not left South Florida in over a year. He has no knowledge and no involvement with Chandra, and neither the FBI nor the police have attempted or requested the opportunity to talk to him. If they do so, no holds barred. They may do so. No immunity, no ground rules, no negotiating.
Okay, now, John, I want to get Ted Williams in here. You're saying, John, you're saying that we're hearing from John Sayles that he has not talked to Gary Condit, Daryl Condit has not spoken to him in a year. Can he still add anything to this case? In over a year.
Even over a year, I think absolutely he can add something to this investigation. You got to try to understand, Congressman Condit is not talking. So the FBI needs, and the local law enforcement need to be able to build some kind of a profile. So therefore, those who know Condit best, his brother perhaps, is a person who could help them to build a profile. In essence, what they need to find out is his propensity for violence, how he's treated other women. These things, even though it's been a year, this gentleman or his brother may very well be able to give them that kind of information.
Now, John, I want to focus also on the broader picture, not just on your client. Where do you think investigators go from here? Ted Williams brings up some good points about the psyche behind Gary Condit and also possibly other people that are out there that may have some involvement. Where do investigators go now?
Well, I'll give you my take on it, but I don't want to be repetitive, but just let me say that I think if we stop relying on innuendo, we focus on ordinary investigative techniques. And the things they ought to be doing are they ought to be, as Ted said, they ought to be trying to find out as much information as they can about Chandra, about anyone she's had contact with. They ought to be expanding their search. They ought to be interviewing every possible neighbor who may have seen her. They ought to be checking out all registered sex offenders who may have been in the area at the time. And we all hope and pray that she's found alive and well, but I just feel so strongly that by creating false stories is just going to raise the hopes of the family, divert the attention. And regarding what Ted said, if the law enforcement wants to talk to my client about any of those things, they may do so.
Okay,
it's just
and John,
so very
John, if
remote.
I can, I want to get Ted in here too first. We just have a few more moments left. I want to ask you too, what do you see as the key? He talked about sexual predators. We also talked about going to halfway houses. Where do you see the key right now?
I see the key in what John has said here, but also I think what is significant is that they still need to talk to Congressman Condit's staff. I think that that's very significant. They need to talk to individuals. They need to go back and talk to individuals within that apartment complex. They now need to reassess this investigation.
All right, Ted Williams, I am so sorry. We have a lot to talk about here. Interesting topic. Ted Williams, John Sayles, thank you very much, both of you. And we will have more coming up. Stay tuned.
Would you like to lower your monthly mortgage payments or use the equity in your home to consolidate your credit card or other debts? Just log on to ditech.com or call 1-800-71-FIXED. Today's low fixed rate with 0 points is only 6.990%. Lower interest rates, lower monthly payments. It's smart money from ditech.com. For fast, friendly service, apply online or call 1-800-71-FIXED right now.
1 part tulip, 2 parts French vanilla. Add 1 whitewash shutter. Mix 1 quart lazy afternoon. Stir in 1 cup sunshine and a pinch of fresh sand. Serves 1 or a family of 6. Introducing Swedish Home by Ethan Allen. All the ingredients you need to make an elegantly simple home.
Sir, just recently you added the new rides to the Adventure Dome at unprecedented cost, new restaurants, and a great deal of money on new deluxe rooms. I know you don't want to raise prices, but as your accountant, something's got to give.
Shelley, send in a new accountant.
At Circus Las Vegas, high prices are not an option. Take it from the chief.
It was a tragedy that took 230 lives. We investigate the crash of TWA Flight 800. If the case is closed, why do questions remain?
The notion that someone could shoot the plane down with a missile was not that far-fetched.
We talked to former FBI investigator Robert Kallstrom. Then, how safe is air travel?
We found cracked wire, chafed wire, broken wire.
We have a shocking report. Plus,
there is never going to be closure.
It's the family still trying to cope with their loss. Join us for a Fox News Channel special, The Tragedy of TWA 800.
The FBI has added a victim profiler to their investigation, and Gary Condit has offered to help as well. With us now to talk about how this may help, Clinton Van Zandt, a former FBI profiler, also Cynthia Oxney, a former federal prosecutor, and Lise Wheel, also a former federal prosecutor and law professor at the University of Washington. Thank you, all of you, for joining us. We appreciate it. First, I'm going to start with you, Lise. The fourth interview that took place with Congressman Condit basically was more of an FBI profile than a focus on Condit, according to both parties involved. What is your reaction to that?
Right, they're describing it as a working session. My reaction is that's probably the only way that they could get Gary Condit to actually come and speak with them again. Remember, his lawyer has to be very careful to make sure he doesn't expose him to any potential charges, obstruction or anything else. So I think it's very positive they called it a working session to develop a profile of who Chandra is, what she likes, what her fantasies are, where she likes to go, people she hangs around with. I also think, though, that they're developing a profile of Gary Condit as well.
Well, let's talk about that. Cynthia, what are your thoughts? Should this deal have been struck where they really couldn't focus on Congress, at least on the outside?
Well, as you know, they cut a deal, and he would only talk if you couldn't ask him X, Y, or Z, or basically everything that's important.
Right. Didn't ask about the discarding of the watch box, didn't talk about flight attendant Amory Smith, didn't talk about the alibi.
Right. And part of you says, as a prosecutor, you know, we're competitive people, and you know, I am woman, hear me roar. Part of you wants to say, forget it, we're not doing it, I'm not putting up with that, and just pound sand, and we don't even want to do an interview. But in the back of your head, when you get your ego in check, you recognize that if there's any chance this girl's still alive, you have to talk to him. And
so this is better than no deal?
It's better than no deal, but not dramatically better, because it's sort of a garbage in, garbage out. Let's say they ask him, they want to know maybe about her fantasies or something like that. Yeah, he'll just lie. And what are they going to do?
Clinton Van Zandt, former FBI profiler, you've had a lot of experience. Tell us what we could still glean from Gary Condit, even if the outside were saying the focus was on Chandra Levy.
Yeah, well, of course, you got to realize normally a profiler looks at a dead body in a crime scene and backs up and then recreates who might have done that. In this case, the interest is on victimology. What is different in this young woman's life that would have made her a higher risk victim than the woman next door to her, yourself, Cynthia, somewhere else? Why her? Why Chandra Levy? Why on this day? So the profiler is you know, again, there's nothing magic. This is not a soothsayer or something like that. But this man or woman, whoever the profiler is going to sit down and hopefully with the congressman's help, reconstruct some of the emotional highs and lows. Where does she buy her ice cream? Where does she like to jog? You know, you tell your parents one thing, but pillow talk is something else. We're interested in pillow talk as much as he shares. All right, we're going to have more with all of you in a moment. Stay with us because we will be right back. More on the search for Chandra Levy and the political picture for Congressman Gary Condit. The polls not painting a pretty picture.
Out here, I'm in command. So am I supposed to say, slow down, guys, I'm constipated? I don't think so. You try to eat right. Sometimes you can't. Harsh chemical laxatives, they can kick in whenever and wherever. Not an option. So I rely on doctor-recommended Metamucil. It's got 100% natural fiber. Works with my body. gently, which is important to a sensitive guy like myself.
Metamucil, the doctor's natural choice for regularity.
Other airline credit cards give you 1 mile for every dollar you spend. But only the Delta Sky Miles credit card from American Express gives you that. Plus, you'll always get double miles at supermarkets, drugstores, and on Delta tickets. On top of 5,000 bonus miles just for getting the card. Watch how quickly all those extra miles add up to your free vacation travel. We can't say the Delta Sky Miles credit card is twice as good as other airline credit cards, but you might. Call 1-800-SKY-MILES to apply now.
Your typical airline credit card gives you 1 mile for every dollar you spend. But only the Delta Sky Miles credit card from American Express gives you that. Plus, you'll always get double miles at gas stations, home improvement stores, and on Delta tickets, on top of 5,000 bonus miles just for getting the card. Watch how quickly all those extra miles add up to your free vacation travel. The Delta Sky Miles credit card, faster than your typical airline credit card. Call 1-800-SKY-MILES to apply now.
Get ready for a spiritual adventure on pay-per-view. Sylvia Browne, best-selling author of Adventures of a Psychic, takes the stage, astonishing you with her gifts as a clairvoyant medium. Pose questions by phone or email to the psychic who's been called nothing short of miraculous. Ask Sylvia Browne, your spiritual advisor.
Everything you ever were suddenly disappeared. Who would you become? Academy Award-winning director Robert Zemeckis and Tom Hanks
Look what I have created!
reunite for the first time since Forrest Gump.
I would rather take my chance out there on the ocean than to stay here and die.
Tom Hanks, Castaway, rated PG-13.
The FBI creating a profile of Chandra Levy, and joining us more to talk about that is Clint Van Zandt, a former FBI profiler, also Cynthia Oxney, a former federal prosecutor, and Lise Wheel also joining us, also a former federal prosecutor and now a law professor at the University of Washington. Lisa, I want to ask you, what do you think they may have gleaned from this fourth interview that will be helpful down the road in the investigation?
You know, it's hard to know. It was only an hour long, which makes me think they couldn't have gotten really that much, but hopefully they got something new from Condit, a person that we don't know about that Chandra was close to, a habit that she had that they didn't know about before. Otherwise, they're just rehashing the same old thing and not really contributing that much to a victimology profile.
Clint, what type of questions do you think were asked of Congressman Condit? We pointed out it was just about an hour. We heard an hour and a half from Abby Lowell, Condit's attorney, but around an hour. What could they have gotten out of that time frame?
Well, realize, too, the challenge was right up against them because they were told what they couldn't ask. There were so many things out of bounds. I'm sure that profilers were frustrated. But they're still looking for, any unique clues about her. If the congressman said, for example, we were talking one night and she said, she asked me if I'd called her the night before because she got 2 hang-up phone calls and she thought maybe it was me. That's very special. We would like to know something like that. If she happened to say something like, this guy hit on me at work and he wanted to go out, but I said, no, I'm really dating a special guy. Well, he may not have remembered that originally, but to come back 2 or 3 weeks, 2 or 3 months in this case, he might come up with something like that. So, we're looking to find a mouse, but there's a very long tail out there. We got to get our hands on that tail to find it, Rita.
And Cynthia, we're told that Congressman Condit basically went in and said that there was no confrontation at the end, contrary to what we're told he said during his second interview. Of course, there's variations between the first, second, then finally the third, where he had apparently admitted the affair. But in this fourth interview, he basically said there was no confrontation, nothing unusual that I saw in the final days. Can that also be helpful should it turn out down the road that Condit is connected to the disappearance?
Well, if once they talk about things like that, that can actually be very helpful to prosecutors because anything he does say is available to be used against him either in the grand jury for indictment purposes or at trial. If he has said a version of different things to the police, and if this has changed from his first May, I believe, about 11th, his first interview, and evidently he did say they broke off. I mean, who knows what he said, because nobody knows for sure. But if there has been an evolution, what will happen in the grand jury is that some FBI agent or DC police officer will go in, and they'll basically do a big chart. On this day he said this, on this day he said that, on this day he changed it and said this. And they can present a picture of somebody who's not truthful to the members of the grand jury or to the members of a regular jury down the line. So any statement they get that actually has to do with Chandra can be very helpful in any future prosecution.
Lisa, what would you be looking for as a former federal prosecutor out of this fourth interview? And what do you think about a fifth interview? Is that coming?
Well, they may ask for a fifth interview, and then Abdullah is in that difficult position again of whether or not to offer up his client and how much to negotiate. He has said that he would have the congressman cooperate to the fullest extent, but he also has to protect his legal rights because, as Cynthia said, you know, he may be looking at some charges, at the very least, obstruction of justice charges down the road. So I'm not sure that there will be a fifth interview, though if the cops ask for it, there definitely could be. As to what they'll get from it, these interviews now are so narrowly focused in on, and you know, there's so many things that are off limits that
are
there's
they really
less and less that they can.
Well, are they constructive?
They could be if, again, we find something new. The pillow talk, for example. Somebody, you know, I love those examples given by your other panelists that, you know, if there's something that she is telling him that she wouldn't tell anyone else, then that, you know, a stalker even, we don't know, then that could be very, very helpful. I think the other thing that would be helpful is now to talk to those aides. Offer the aides immunities. From the prosecutor's standpoint, you hate to give anyone immunity, but give those aides immunity so that they'll talk.
All right, the aides. Everyone's wondering if that staff will crack. Thank you very much, all of you. We appreciate all of you joining us. Coming up, the Levy mystery, thrusting Gary Condit into the national spotlight, heating things up for the California congressman. But can his political career take the beating? We'll get reaction from Condit Country.
Enjoy something made better with time. Slow roast coffee from Maxwell House. It's worth spending time with.
This summer, make every day a day at the beach. Get to the 2001 Pontiac Summer Clearance and get into a new wide-track Grand Prix. It has a standard V6, ABS, and traction control. Plus, its wheels are set wide for better control and grip in the curves. And now, a 2001 Grand Prix comes with 0% APR financing or $2,000 cash back. That's what you're gonna get. This is where you gotta go.
Out here, I'm in command. So am I supposed to say, slow down guys, I'm constipated? I don't think so. You try to eat right. Sometimes you can't. Harsh chemical laxatives, they can kick in whenever and wherever. Not an option. So I rely on doctor-recommended Metamucil. It's got 100% natural fiber. Works with my body, gently, which is important to a sensitive guy like myself.
Metamucil, the doctor's natural choice for regularity.
To you, it's a PC, but to your kids, it's a laboratory, a museum, or a rainforest. The compact Presario 5000T with Intel Pentium 3 processor. It's a place where your child can explore a world of ideas. And it's just $8.89. Let us build one for you. Call 1-800-331-8154 today and get a compact printer for just $1 more. Hey, why just take your kids to school when you can take them farther than they ever dreamed?
This is Florence Henderson. Join me in the fight against breast cancer. Register today for City of Hope's Walk for Hope against breast cancer. Call 800-266-7920 or visit our website at walk.coh.org.
Saturday, Russia says a plan for fewer arms is at hand. Can Bush trust Putin, or is the U.S. defense playing Russian roulette? Barnes and Kondracki are the Beltway boys this weekend. Skakel, Manson, Chambers, Bundy, Dahmer, Smith, Gotti, Ace. Forget the headlines. This is the real story. The crime scene, the capture, the conviction. We explore the shocking and grisly crime. If you think you know the facts, you're dead wrong. Join us each week for Crime Wave, hosted by John Scott.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Derry Alexander. Firefighters out west are fighting to get some big fires under control. Evacuations may become necessary near Jackson, Wyoming. A wildfire has grown to more than 3,700 acres since last Sunday, and the forecast today calls for wind and dry weather. About 100 multi-million-dollar homes have escaped damage, but they're still in danger. In Southern California, firefighters hope to have a wildfire near the Cajon Pass under control by this evening. It's about 60% contained now. So far, no one's been injured and no buildings have been damaged. The top continues to blow on Europe's most active volcano. Ash spewing from Mount Etna has forced the main airport in eastern Sicily to close. Emergency crews are working to redirect lava from a tourist area about halfway up the mountain. The lava's been gushing for 2 weeks now, but so far there's been no injuries or serious damage. There could be a new round of trouble for boxer Mike Tyson. A woman from California says Tyson raped her last week. Tyson and his lawyers deny the charge and say they'll cooperate with investigators. No charges have been filed. Tyson spent more than 3 years in jail for a 1992 rape conviction. And the man with the first self-contained artificial heart can now stand and walk with a bit of help. Doctors in Louisville, Kentucky say he's also able to communicate, writing letters and talking. The patient is off a ventilator, and doctors say his kidneys, liver, and lungs are also in good shape. And finally, something that could really stink puckering up to a piggy. Folks at an Indianapolis hospital were kissing pigs, all for a good cause, raising money for the American Heart Association. Our next update is at the top of the hour. Now stay tuned for our Fox News special as it continues. Vanished, where is Chandra Levy?
The last thing we need is a political feeding frenzy here. We ought to really focus on helping the police and everyone else solve this terrible mystery of where Chandra Levy is.
Democratic Senator Joseph Lieberman. The Chandra drama is taking a toll on the Levy family, and as our polls show, it is also hurting Congressman Gary Condit and his political future. Claudia Cowan gives us a view from Modesto, California, hometown of Chandra and the congressman.
Back in mid-May, it was hard to find anyone in Modesto who had an unkind word for their longtime congressman. When Gary Condit was first linked to missing intern Chandra Levy, most voters were just as concerned about him.
It seems like they're trying and convicting him before he has gotten to say anything.
Well, that concerns you?
Yes, yeah, and Gary is a real good guy.
What a difference 3 months can make. This is the majority view in Modesto now. A growing number of constituents saying they're fed up with allegations of Condit's numerous affairs, obstruction of justice, and stubborn public silence. According to a Fox News survey of voters here, 40% have an unfavorable opinion of a man who's never lost a race in 30 years of public service and who won re-election last year by nearly 70% of the vote. More than half feel he's not being completely forthcoming to investigators, and nearly 2/3 want their congressman to explain himself. Even so, his loyal supporters, though dwindling in number, say the jury is still out because Condit's job performance ratings remain high. Recent polls reflect a conflicted electorate. On the one hand, most local voters say they think Gary Condit is doing a good job representing them and that he should finish his term. But nearly 60% say he will not get their vote if he runs for re-election. The San Jose Mercury News poll also said slightly more than 1/3 of those surveyed think Condit should resign, jumping to 55% if it turns out Condit asked flight attendant Anne-Marie Smith to lie about their alleged affair.
I think he should resign. He's had it. I mean, he lies, cheats.
I think that Gary Condit is immoral and he needs to be taken out of office, and more questions should be, more action should be taken towards him.
The fallout also affecting the political future of Condit's son, Chad. It was widely believed 33-year-old Chad, who currently works for Governor Gray Davis, would win a seat in the state assembly next year. Now close friends say he's decided not to run. It's another disappointment for the many here who once hoped Gary Condit might run for higher office and needed only name recognition. Now that he has it, his political future has never been so cloudy. In Modesto, Claudia Cowan, Fox News.
All right, thanks, Claudia. And when we come back, it's a story that seems all too familiar in our nation's capital these days. An older, powerful man in politics, a younger woman. We'll take a peek into the world of Chandra Levy.
I'm taking a local city government course, then next semester I'll take a state government course, and a federal government course, and do the internships. And actually, we have probably the biggest paper. It's a 15 to 20 page paper in this city government course, and I should show you that. What she wrote.
Have you been writing?
My proposal about what I'm going to write about. Oh, okay. And the teacher was really impressed with it.
Oh.
She sounds happy.
Yeah.
You sound like you're very content with the program and everything. Oh, yeah.
Got your Pop-Tarts?
Yeah, got it. Got my toaster strudel? Of course. When are you going to get your own toaster strudel?
Pillsbury Toaster Strudel. Like Pop-Tarts, only better. Warm, flaky pastry, juicy fruit filling, and do-it-yourself icing.
So, what do you do with all those Pop-Tarts?
Something better just popped up in your grocer's freezer.
Pillsbury Toaster Strudel.
I have type 2 diabetes, and I will always take care of myself. I stick to my regimen. I had to make that commitment to diet and exercise.
But diet and exercise weren't enough.
So my doctor added Avandia to help control my blood sugar.
Unlike some diabetes medications, Avandia helps my body use the natural insulin it already makes.
Avandia has helped keep my blood sugar down for about a year now.
Avandia in combination with insulin may increase the risk of serious heart problems. Because of this, talk to your doctor before using Avandia and insulin together. Avandia may cause fluid retention or swelling, which could lead to or worsen heart failure. Avandia is not for everyone. If you have severe heart failure or active liver disease, Avandia is not recommended. Some people may experience weight gain with Avandia. To check for serious liver problems, blood tests should be conducted before and during Avandia therapy.
This commitment is for me, but it's also for my family.
Eat right, exercise, and if that's not enough, ask your doctor about Avandia.
So it may always be stronger than diabetes.
It's an Eye on Washington, and your #1 network for political coverage has the Capitol covered. DC, AM, PM. Team Washington with the inside story all day, every day. Jim Engel, Rita Cosby, Steve Santoni. Reporting you can rely on. No spin, no hype, no slant. Carl Cameron, Wendell Goldberg, David Schuster. Get the fair and balanced advantage only on the Fox News Channel, your #1 network for political coverage.
A powerful politician, an impressionable intern, and a story that's making headlines every day. We're joined now by Kathleen Willie Schwicker, a former White House volunteer, Chandra Levy, co-founder Women PAC, and Kim Seraphin, a media consultant and former spokeswoman for New York City Mayor Rudy Giuliani. Thank you, all of you, for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks. Kathleen, I want to start with you, if I could. Just to refresh our viewers, tell them very briefly, if you could, to describe what happened to you when you were at the Clinton White House.
Well, not to go into the gory details of that day in the White House, I'd gone to see the president about a job and ran into some pretty rude behavior and had kept quiet about it. It was not my intention ever to have it come out, but it did. I had told some close friends and it got out. And I was subpoenaed by Ken Starr's grand jury, and I went in and testified. I was also subpoenaed in Paula Jones' sexual harassment case, and that's when, it was 2 days before that deposition was when I was threatened.
That's what I want to ask you. Tell us about the intense pressure that was on you, really when the focus was on you.
Well, the pressure was to keep quiet. The president's attorney, Bob Bennett, came to Richmond many times to visit with me and my attorney, and tried very, very hard to find out in my words what had happened and what I was going to say. And I never felt like I owed him an explanation, but there was a lot of arm twisting. They suggested that I needed to hire Plato Gutierrez, and we all know who he is. And they also told us not to worry, that the money was not a problem. And it was that kind of thing. You're going to need a criminal attorney. You need to tell us what happened in there. It really wasn't anything bad, was it? You can always take the fifth, you know. And then, of course, the physical threat that I received the 2 days before the deposition. It was a pretty scary time.
Deidre, if you can tell us, does this seem to be sort of a similar story that we're hearing now and some stories that we've heard from Flight Attendant Anne-Marie Smith, now this other new woman coming forward in the Condit case?
Absolutely.
Does this seem to be a pattern?
No. To draw a correlation between what occurred in the Clinton White House and what Kathleen Willey just described, and to draw a correlation between that and what happened between Chandra Levy and Gary Condit is really erroneous and in some ways irresponsible. The relationship between Chandra Levy and Gary Condit was between two adults apparently consenting. This was not a sexual harassment issue. This was not an issue where she worked for him.
What I'm actually asking you, Deidre, is now I'm talking about these other women who've come forward since, the flight attendants, some of these others who did have consensual relationships with him, but since were said, do not talk. They were urged to lie. And in the case of Anne-Marie Smith, we're given an affidavit that she says was false and she wouldn't sign it.
Well, we still haven't seen everything come out about those stories, and I do believe that, yeah, there were probably other relationships. I think that Gary Condit, his behavior definitely speaks to that, and I'm not going to try and defend him. I'm not here to try and do that. But in terms of a feminist issue, in terms of whether or not this is taking advantage of a young woman, no, she was a consenting adult, and she was entering into a relationship that he characterized as a friendship erroneously at first, and that he later came to develop into its full definition. And we can see that this happened between an adult. She didn't work for him. She's 24 years old. She had a competitive internship at a federal agency. She clearly had a mind on her shoulders, and I don't think that it's right to paint her as anything other than that in the media, in the press, or otherwise.
Kim Seraphin, what do you think? Was Chandra Levy a victim in this case in terms of the relationship, the aspect? You got a powerful congressman, clearly married, and from what I can tell you from talking to Levy relatives, he certainly was giving her the impression that there could be something possibly long-term here.
Well, sure. I think my point is more of where are all the women's groups in this whole saga? I mean, certainly throughout the investigation, a lot of issues that affect women have come up. And when are women's groups going to come out and speak up about this? I mean, it wasn't when Condit stonewalled cops for 10 weeks and didn't tell the whole story of his relationship and impeded the investigation, putting his political career ahead of Chandra's well-being. It wasn't when Condit's office started leaking out details of Chandra's alleged sex life. It wasn't when we now hear that Condit and his staff are threatening women that may have had relationships with Condit. When are the other women's groups going to speak up to either say, hey, a powerful man, stop taking advantage of a young woman, or conversely say, you know what, young women are not so naive and impressionable, and stop giving people this impression and stop perpetuating the stereotype, because then more men are going to start taking advantage of younger women. But
all of you, I want to ask Kathleen Willey if I can. Kathleen, in your own personal experience, I know you told me that you did call some women's groups, but they didn't respond to you.
I called Patricia Ireland. I made a personal appeal to Patricia Ireland.
The president of NOW.
The president of NOW, and I didn't get a return phone call. And I'd like to also add to what Kim just said. But I will say this. I heard a very promising and encouraging statement the other night, last night as a matter of fact, by the new president of NOW, Kim Gandy, who said that this nuts and sluts defense is no longer going to be a criminal defense. And I think that's a good start. Now, the problem here is Patricia Ireland came out with the same kind of thing with me. She got on the talk shows, well, if this was a sexual assault, then we have a real problem, and that's all she said. Once the trashing of me began, as it has of Chandra, and it will begin with Anne-Marie and the new Noreen McKay, then, you know, these women need to put their money where their mouth is, and instead of saying that, you know, the nuts and sluts thing is no longer credible, they need to get up and they need to stand up and they need to be seen, and they need to call for this man's resignation and let the chips fall where they may, because this man does not deserve to be on the Hill. He is a disgrace to the other congressmen. He's a disgrace to the women up there, the whole intern program. He's a disgrace to his family, and he needs to just leave and do everybody a favor and just get out of our lives. And if he is willing to make amends, and if he's not guilty of anything here, then he can run for again in 2 more years. Congressional elections are every 2 years.
Now, Deidre, if I can, I want to get Deidre involved in this. Let's get back on the women's issues. Where are the women's groups? I mean, Kathleen Willey brings up a good point. We haven't really heard from any of them, just very few remarks. What is going on?
Well, just as Kathleen Willey didn't appreciate it when she was slandered in the press before people knew all the facts of the story, I'm sure that we don't appreciate it that Gary Condit's being blasted in the press. And there are...
But are you saying, though, that you're defending Gary Condit?
No, I said earlier, actually, that I'm
here?
not defending Gary Condit. But I think that if we want to talk about feminist issues, there are some that we can talk about in regards to the Chandra Levy disappearance.
But do me a favor, answer me, though, if you could. Where are the women's groups in this?
Well, they are making, as she just stated, they are making statements on air. And I think that they are willing to put action behind their words if we wait to see what actually did or didn't occur in Congress on the Hill with Gary Condit. But we need to find out what the facts are before we jump to any conclusions.
Actually, do me a favor, you guys. I'm going to let you ask that question. When we come back, we're going to take a quick break and continue more with our very interesting conversation. Meantime, the search for Shonda, we will be shifting into high gear as if this wasn't high enough. It's been more than 3 months since the government intern vanished, and her family's doing all they can to keep the pressure on the case and the man at the center of the storm. We will bring you that story, plus continue with our guests.
This program is brought to you by Farmers Insurance. Contact your local Farmers agent today. Remember, Farmers get you back.
Just imagine what the world would be like if everyone had Farmers Insurance to get things back to the way they were. Farmers Insurance gets you back where you belong.
Would you like to lower your monthly mortgage payments or use the equity in your home to consolidate your credit card or other debts? Just log on to ditech.com or call 1-800-71-FIXED. Today's low fixed rate with 0 points is only 6.990%. Lower interest rates, lower monthly payments. It's smart money from ditech.com. For fast, friendly service, apply online or call 1-800-71-FIXED right now.
Painting a room is easy. All the work is in the edging, and the edges are everywhere. Meet EdgeMaster, the self-guided rolling edger. With EdgeMaster, you can paint every edge effortlessly because EdgeMaster's beveled edge self-guides as you paint. Just load the roller, flip the bevel in place, and EdgeMaster guides itself to paint door and window moldings, light switches, thermostats, and walls and ceilings. Straight edge or round, EdgeMaster does it all. With the EdgeMaster, you'll get a precision edge every time. We guarantee you can paint any room in 1 hour or we'll buy it back. Use it once and you'll never use anything else again. Through this special offer, we'll send you the EdgeMaster, 2 EdgeMaster rollers, painting guide, and tray for only $19.99. Plus, call right now and we'll triple the number of rollers, a $20 value free. You'll get the entire EdgeMaster painting system and 6 rollers, a $40 value, all for just $19.99. Here's how to order.
To order EdgeMaster, call 1-800-408-9889. That's 1-800-408-9889. So call and order today.
This summer, get ready for the return of the most electrifying man in sports entertainment.
If you smell what The Rock is cooking.
Finally, The Rock has come back to pay-per-view. WWF SummerSlam, coming live August 19th to Dish On Demand.
How much PC can $849 get you? More PC than we can tell you about in 30 seconds. The compact Presario 5000T. Let us build one for you. Call us direct at 1-800-336-1366 for all this, and we'll double your memory for free. A super-fast Intel Pentium 3 processor, CD-ROM, accelerated graphics, pro-quality audio system, monitor, one-touch internet access, lots of memory, plus 5 color choices, red, green, blue, purple, and orange, and that's just for starters. Hey, do I have time to mention the...
As far as I know, our last phone calls just seem to be coming from specific phone number. With Condit. So, and a good friend, if he's a good friend, he come forward and care that a good friend and a constituent is missing.
The Levy's on Friday basically saying that they're still suspicious of Congressman Gary Condit. Another day, another Chandra Levy headline. Her case is without a doubt one of the most publicized missing persons cases since the Lindbergh baby. Her connection to a congressman, the undeniable point of interest. But as Fox News correspondent John Dupree reports, Chandra's parents are also doing their part to keep their daughter's story in the news.
About 9 o'clock every morning, network camera crews jostle for position to get a clear picture of Robert and Susan Levy.
Please, anybody would like to help out, and they will remain anonymous, to call the following. It's an email.
There are 98,456 missing persons in the U.S., but 3 months after her disappearance, Chandra Levy is still making headlines.
This combines all of the elements of a great story.
The intern's relationship with a congressman fuels media interest in the case, but her parents have their own strategy to keep the story alive.
Appreciate anyone who has information to come out and help us find Chandra.
You'll do anything to bring your daughter home. A parent would do anything for their child, and that's what they're doing.
What they're doing is being orchestrated by teams of public relations professionals on both coasts.
Who understand 24-hour news cycles, who understand the fact that networks such as yours need footage, and have been keeping the story alive.
Just this week, the Levys released new photographs and never-before-seen home video of Chandra.
The video that we just released showed her mannerisms, how her head moves, how her hands move, gave her voice.
And it gave TV news anchors a new headline to read. Are the Levys manipulating the media? Maybe, but a close family friend says finding their daughter is all that matters to them.
They have very gladly put into the hands of their attorney and the public relations firm the entire burden.
Still, there are some things the Levys won't do. They won't speak of Congressman Gary Condit, determined to keep attention focused on Chandra. And they will not comment on the D.C. police chief's speculation their daughter may never be found. Careful not to give anyone the impression, perhaps not even themselves, they're losing hope. In Modesto, California, John Dupree, Fox News.
All right, thanks, John. And we are talking about women's groups and the Chandra Levy case. And continuing our conversation, we are joined by Kathleen Willie Schwicker, a former White House volunteer, Deidre Levine, co-founder Women PAC, and Kim Seraphin, a media consultant and former spokeswoman for New York City Mayor Rudy Giuliani. Thank you, all of you, for joining us again.
Thank you. Thanks.
I want to ask you, Kim, just from this piece that we saw from John Dupree, how much of this is a PR machine from both sides?
Well, I think, again, going back to the women's groups, these are people that certainly know how to run a well-strategized media campaign. And when they want to get a message out, they know how to hit the airwaves, how to get on TV, get on the radio, stand outside with picket signs. The more political pressure that they put on Gary Condit by being active in a media campaign, the better, because maybe that would have forced him to tell the truth a little bit earlier, or to, again, tell more than he knows. And you can't help but wonder if their silence is maybe a little bit politically motivated, because as we saw in the case of Clarence Thomas or Bob Packwood, they weren't so eager to give those two people the benefit of the doubt. But when it's a Democrat like Bill Clinton or Gary Condit, well, then maybe they should have the benefit of the doubt now.
Kathleen Willie, are there politics involved here? How much?
Oh, absolutely, there's politics. I'd like to ask Deidre a question. Now, I understand that she's working for women, and there are a lot of issues out there today that need to be addressed. I have a daughter that's probably about your age. And what you said is true. That was a consensual affair between a 24-year-old girl and a man twice her age, a powerful man. And something's happened. And he's hired a PR woman by the name of Marina Ein, who last week told a Salon.com writer, Joshua Marshall, on the record that this woman had a sordid sexual history.
A series of one-night stands.
A case, a long list of one-night stands. Now, Deidre, what do you think about that? Do you approve of that? Do you think that's right? I mean, this girl can't answer for herself. She has no voice.
To answer the question, actually, what she did was cite an article that's being written that has those items as subjects.
I'm actually going to interject because I spoke to Talk Magazine, which is the publication that's coming out with it, and what they're telling me is they're going to be focusing on both of them, sort of their personal history. Okay. Not saying a one-night stand, though. Saying they are going to say that she dated a series of older married men. but not pointing out one night stands, long-term relationships.
It was a mischaracterization by Ein that I think was definitely to the detriment of Chandra Levy, and I think that that is horrible. And I think
horrible. And
I
now
agree with you
parents.
completely.
All right, and now her
and you're absolutely right. There are a lot of issues that we can talk about as women.
There are.
Some of which have to do with this case, and some of which are being brought to the surface because of this case, and so we should take the opportunity to talk about them. Some that have to do with this case.
Well, then let's go one step further.
Kathy, let's move forward if we could. What can we learn from this? What have the mistakes been, and what can we learn from this?
I'm not sure we're learning anything. That's the problem.
No, we are, and I will tell you what. I've been in conversations with other organizations where we're taking this as perhaps an opportunity, even though she didn't work for him as an intern, maybe because of all of the information that we've gotten about interns on the Hill and how much of a lack of direction they have in general, there can be some kind of an orientation program that can be created so that they can better understand their role.
The orientation program.
All right, I'm going to turn it all around because I want to ask you. I want to bring Kim in if I could. Kim, there was a member of Congress who just came up, in fact, on Friday, and he was pitching to the House Ethics Committee. It's a Republican from Colorado who was saying that there should be a new rule that the House Ethics Committee can come down and say it's unethical for a member of Congress to have a sexual relationship with an intern. Should that be passed?
Yeah, I don't know if you can dictate the morals of what somebody does outside their congressional work, but I think this is an opportunity for maybe women to come out and tell other women, be careful, you know, great, we've had the sexual revolution, you can make these choices about what you want to do, but make the right choices and make careful choices. And you know what? It's a different time now. It's a different era. Women don't have to sleep their way up the political ladder or the corporate ladder.
Not that they ever did.
They should rely on their own skills and their own abilities. And we want to see more women in politics. And
Kathleen,
we don't
have times changed? Kathleen Willie, you're looking at this. You're shaking your head. I think saying times have not changed.
I don't think they have. I'm sorry to say, I think these are well-intentioned young women. I understand their issues. I understand the issues that my own daughter goes through. But at the same time,
Kathleen, all of you, I'm so sorry. Kathleen, real quickly, you got to wrap it up. We got about 5 seconds.
You know, Gary Condit, go home, tell the Levys everything they need to know, help them find their daughter. Stop mocking them.
Okay, listen, all of you, thank you so much. Very interesting conversation. We appreciate it. And that is it for this special hour on the search for Chandra Levy. This story continues to develop, so keep it on Fox News Channel for all the very latest. And please join John Gibson Monday for his new show, The Big Show, at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. He'll have the most up-to-date information on this investigation.